HR issues can kill you. One complaint against your company can turn your world upside down. And you spend way too much time dealing with HR when you should be spending your time on making a profit. You should talk to Bambi. With Bambi, get access to your own dedicated US-based HR manager starting at just $99 per month. They get to know you and your business while providing HR expertise and the personal touch you need and want. They're available by phone, email, and real-time chat, so onboarding and terminations run smoothly. Team members reach peak performance, and your business stays compliant with changing HR regulations. And with Bambi's HR Autopilot, you'll automate important HR practices like setting policies, training, and feedback. HR managers can easily cost $80,000 a year, but Bambi starts at $99 per month. Schedule your free conversation today to see how much Bambi can take off your plate. Go to Bambi.com right now and type in Accelerate under podcast when you sign up. It'll really help the show. Spelled BAM, BEE.com. Bambi.com. Type in Accelerate.
Welcome to Accelerate Your Business Growth with your host, Diane Helbig. Diane is a leading small business development and leadership coach, author, and speaker who is passionate about sharing valuable ideas, tips, and techniques with business professionals worldwide. Diane brings you the world's experts and gurus in all things business. Whether it's sales, structure, social media, planning, or plateauing, guests bring their expertise and energy to each episode. When growing your business is your focus, Accelerate Your Business Growth is the show to listen to. Got a topic or guest suggestion? Let Diane know. The goal is to make sure you have the information you need to move your business forward. Thanks for joining us. Settle in and enjoy.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Our podcast is sponsored by Audible.com. Audible.com is a leading provider of spoken digital audio, entertainment, and information. Listen to audiobooks whenever and wherever you want. Get a free book when you sign up for a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/businessgrowth. We continue to be honored with the fact that this podcast is gaining recognition as a great resource for small business owners, entrepreneurs, and sales professionals. From Inc.com to MSNBC's Your Business to Fit Small Business, Proven. There was just another one, People First, I believe, just named it one of the best sales podcasts on the planet. And we are thrilled with all of that. You know, this is our goal, to get information in front of small business owners and salespeople so you guys can do better things in your business. A good part of the reason why we are gaining so much recognition is because of the guests that come on. You know, they join me for a great conversation, but really to provide their expertise to all of you, so that you can use it in whatever areas of your business you think could use a little bit of help. Today we have such a guest. It is Erin Levy. Erin is the founder and CEO of Raise the Bar, a firm focused on helping companies address the effectiveness of their leadership and harness the value of the millennial generation. Thanks so much for joining me, Erin.
Thank you for having me on, Diane. I'm excited to be here.
I am thrilled to have you here. This whole millennial topic is pretty big. I have to say that I am of the generation that has given birth to the millennials, and so I experience an awful lot of people who have that, I'll say, not the greatest viewpoint of millennials. I do not share their belief. I think millennials are fabulous. But there does, you know, they are potentially different. They've grown up in a really different world. So I'm eager to have this conversation, and I would really like to know, I mean, are they really different?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because this is a conversation I have all the time, and it's a yes and no answer. Yes, in the sense that there is a couple of factors which make the world of work a little bit different. There are factors in terms of technology and instant gratification and what we grew up with that change the way the millennial generation is versus boomers or Gen Xers. There's also just generally each generation has different inciting incidents that happened in their lives, whether it was 9/11 or the real estate market crash, and how that impacts the way in which we view the world and the way in which we're either risk averse or willing to take on risk. And so in a sense, millennials are different. And what we'll probably get to at some point in this conversation, I'm a firm believer at our core, all human beings have some very basic needs, and we're all very similar in many ways. And so at the core of it, we're all humans.
Yeah. I think that's interesting. I really do think experiences have a big impact on how people grow up. You know, like when I was growing up, my parents' generation worked until they retired. They got a watch and a pension for the rest of their lives. And so there was this, you worked someplace for a really long time and you were loyal to them and they were loyal to you. And it was this really wonderful world. And then I think probably as I got into my adulthood, you know, a lot of that changed. And It wasn't necessarily like that anymore. So now the kids, you know, now the millennials who grew up, they grew up in a totally like different world where companies were letting people go all the time. Their pensions weren't there. There was at some point for a lot of companies like no such thing all of a sudden for all these people who thought they were going to be taken care of forever. So I can see how that can inform then how they view the world of work.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I like that you mentioned the way in which, you know, they view work, right? Boomers, you're right. They saw work as a career. They were loyal to their company. Gen Xers, like a whole different generation that we don't talk much about, is work was a job and they were loyal to themselves. They were more practical, independent, and they were actually much bigger risk takers, which if you look at all these young tech companies and these young fast-growing companies, most of them are started by Gen Xers, not millennials. You look at the CEOs or the founders of these companies, they're mostly Gen Xers because the Gen X generation is just a little bit different, and they're much bigger risk takers, whereas millennials are, and we're talking in generalizations here, stereotypes. We want to be careful, but millennials are more risk averse, and they see work as a calling, right? They're looking for work to be this more than just a career, more than just a job. It's a calling, and their loyalty lies with their community. And what they really value is contributing, which is why you'll hear companies talk about their purpose or their social mission and how we're giving back and how we connect. And that is all a reaction that the market is having to what millennials are pulling for and looking for, one, in the products they buy, but also in the companies they work for. I want a company that has purpose. I want to be somewhere where I'm contributing to my community. I want to do something that feels like a calling. Which is a very different language than the workplace has seen in the last 40 years.
Absolutely. And I think it's wonderful. I mean, isn't that right? I mean, you spend so much time at work, it should be something that was a calling.
So obviously I'm biased. I'm a millennial. I spend a lot of time researching millennials. So I don't know if you're asking the right person here, but I think it's what could be better? What could be better than really contributing and giving back, one, to our community and expecting more from the place that we work, expecting something bigger. And it's causing issues, right? It's causing turnover. Millennials turnover 3 times more than any other generation. It is a real problem. It's why I do the work I do, because I was in the middle of my 20s when I started to see all of my friends leaving their jobs and then leaving their second jobs And all these were cool, exciting companies. I had a friend who was making well into the six figures, and he was working with his best friends, and he had a barista on staff, and the company kept growing, and he was getting promoted, and he quit.
Why?
And Diane, the exact same question. So I'm a coach too. And that's what I said. I was like, why? Even though as a coach, I know that there's more to it than money, and there's more to it than these external factors.
Yeah.
But, you know, on the outside, you're just like, the question comes. And so that's actually what sparked this business. And that's what sparked the curiosity is I said, what's behind this? What's happening here? So I went and talked to him, and I had a conversation, and I started to understand what's behind his leave story. And then I talked to my other friend, and then I talked to everybody that would be willing to share their leave story with me, from Uber drivers to friends to businesses I was working with to their employees. Why did they leave their last company? Why might they leave their current company? And you know what I found? There's three core perspectives, three core reasons behind each of these leave stories. First one is I want purpose behind the work I'm doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And these aren't going to be like the most insightful. They're kind of obvious when you hear them, especially you with millennial kids, right? I want purpose behind the work I'm doing. The second one is interesting is I want to feel connected to my team, to my company, to my boss. And what companies will hear that is I want to be recognized. But recognition is just a way of feeling connected to my team, to my company, to my boss. Like I'm heard, like I'm seen. So they want to feel connected to that. And the third reason is they want to feel like their company, like their boss cares about their growth and development.
So
yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's just so interesting. And I'm so glad you said that recognition is just a part of feeling connected, right? Because we do. I mean, the older generation, so to speak, will say these kids, they want to be patted on the back. They think they're unique and all this crap. And I'm thinking, okay, well, everyone wants to feel like they're acknowledged. Even customers want to feel like they are valued and they matter. And so that's not really a generational thing. It's probably that these kids think maybe it's more, oh gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? Like it's a good thing. And maybe if my generation had felt that way, maybe people wouldn't have sat in jobs with really horrible bosses for the longest time just because the money was good and had, grown up miserable at work and had heart attacks at 50.
Well, here's what I think. I think that these are core things that everyone wants. We all want to feel purpose in our lives. We all want to feel like we're connected, like we're heard. Everyone wants to be heard.
Yep.
We all want to feel like we're growing and developing. No one wants to feel like they're stagnant and in place. Yet the difference is the millennial generation is asking of this from their work, whereas other generations might have found this in other places. Or you'd have a midlife crisis and you say, I need to find this somehow, whether it's in work or somewhere else. And so we all have this and want this. It's just what I find is powerful, and you brought it up earlier, is that the millennial generation wants and expect this from the workplace. And that is an amazing ideal to look towards and to work towards. We're not there, but for me, I think that's a great thing.
I do too. And I think it's great for the entire economy, right? This whole concept of work and business. This is really great because there's a certain level, there's certain elevation that happens when people feel that sort of connectivity.
Oh, yeah, it's the win-win. It's the true win-win.
Yeah. I want to take a quick sponsor break because I want to make sure I get it in so we can keep going with this conversation and I don't feel like I'm missing it. Accelerate Your Business Growth podcast is happy to be sponsored by Audible.com. Audible.com is a leading provider of spoken digital audio entertainment and information. They have over 150,000 titles to choose from, and you can listen to them on any device, including whatever you're hearing us on right now. If you sign up at our link, which is audibletrial.com/businessgrowth, you get one free audiobook and a 1-month trial of the service. Some examples of books you can listen to on audible.com are 80/20 Sales and Marketing by Perry Marshall and The Go-Giver by Bob Berg. So visit audibletrial.com/businessgrowth, explore the books that are of interest to you, and receive one free audiobook when you sign up for the trial. Today we're talking with Erin Levy about engaging and retaining millennials in today's workplace. So this all feels to me like it's a leadership, like a management problem that they're really either not seeing or embracing, adopting, whatever it is. But I'm curious from your viewpoint, having studied this and, going into this business, why are so many managers not very good at leading?
It's unfortunate. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think most managers suck. And I'm straightforward and to the point about it. I'm not really apologetic, just because it's what I've seen, it's what I've known, it's what is behind all those lead stories. If you can circle in on one key component, and it's for this reason. It's the way we structure our businesses is we hire people and promote people into management positions because they're good at what they do.
Yeah.
So you're a good salesperson. You're the best salesperson on our team. You're the person who's now going to manage all the other salespeople. But the best salesperson is really good at doing their processes. They know what works for me, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for anybody else.
Yeah.
And that can really create the opposite of a great leader. I think Gallup in their State of the American Manager report says 1 in 10 managers actually has the tools and skills to be great leaders. And it's to me something that doesn't have to be that way. These are tools and skills that can be trained. You're not stuck in that. But what we're doing in organizations, especially now as these larger organizations, the older organizations with the training and built in is not around anymore. We're not paying as much money, time, and attention to the training. We're throwing someone into a management position. We're asking them to do their job and then manage people. And they're two very different skills, and then we're leaving them on their own without the tools or skills to really do that well.
Okay, so wait, hang on a second. So are you saying that these people who get promoted because they're good at a thing, but they don't necessarily have management skills, that they can be taught to be good managers?
The reason I know, yes. So yes, the reason I know that can be the case is I went through coaching training, 200 plus hours of training to be a coach, not as a coach, but as a manager. I went through it thinking about how can I serve and lead my team better. And as I went through it, I picked up skills that I wasn't very good at, like listening or asking powerful questions. And in going through it, I said, if I can learn these skills, it's practice. And I've spent my career on the study and science of behavior change. It's as simple as moving people from knowledge to action in a couple of key habits. And after going through the training and spending my time thinking about what are the elements of a great leader and what are the habits that they hold and use on a daily basis, that's how we put together the best ways and the best training that we have to really build the habits of a leader.
That's interesting. That's really interesting because I think that's something that those poor people struggle with. They get promoted, and I think they know that they don't necessarily have that skill set, and it's like beating your head against a wall because you know there's an expectation. You don't have the first idea of how to go about it, but if you could just go back to doing the thing you were doing successfully, you'd be happy. Everyone else would be happy. So being able to then learn that would be great. But before I ask you about like how you do that, another question just popped into my head that if I don't ask, I'll forget. And that is this. If you have someone, let's say you have someone who's a really good salesperson, should you even bother promoting them, or should you leave them as a really good salesperson?
I don't have the answer. The answer is you need to ask them.
I
and this
love
is
that.
This is the answer to leadership. A lot of the times is it don't assume or plan what somebody else really wants or what they're going to put their efforts and energy towards. Connect and ask. Hey, if it's a salesperson, they can make a ton of money not being a manager and just being a high performer. And they can increase and rank in the company, but they don't need to manage people. It doesn't have to be to move up in this business, you need to manage people. We need to let go of that belief because that actually stunts the growth of companies and really halts them and starts to create this massive turnover because you have people who, one, aren't in the right seats and they're working with other people and they're not helping them get in the right seats or get the right training or really achieve their best, which is the role of managers is to help your employees be as successful as possible, is to unlock their potential and growth so that everybody in the company wins.
Well, that is a great answer. I love that answer. Ask them. It's really right. And that people should be able to grow with a company without going going hierarchically up. They should, right? I mean, that's, yeah, it's structural. That's so interesting.
Yeah. And we can even move them up in the hierarchy. We can move them up in the hierarchy. That doesn't mean they have to have direct reports under them, right? You can have someone who's a VP who doesn't actually have direct reports, but they do strategy or they do implementation. They do something and they're really, really good at it at the highest level. They just don't manage people because that's not where they care to put their energy, and it's not their highest and best use. And the biggest problem, I mean, you read Good to Great, right? Jim Collins' book.
Yeah.
It's about having the right people in the right seats.
Yeah.
Don't force people into the wrong seats and move somebody out of the right seat into the wrong seat. You're losing twice. You're losing a good salesperson, and then you're putting a bad manager in play who's now going to impact a team of 8 or 10 people. Right? You're losing tenfold, 20-fold potentially in that one decision.
Right. Ugh, that's amazing. Okay, I'm so glad we're having this conversation, and I really hope that the audience is really paying attention to this, because we're doing it to ourselves, right? And we don't need to be. It's really just a matter of how do you look at it. It's looking at it differently. It's looking at it from just other possibilities. And what's weird about this is that actually if we all, and I'll say, the people like in my generation, were willing to say, let's listen to these millennials. Let's look at the world from their viewpoint and ask them what they see and what they expect or would like, right? We could probably very easily reframe our business in a way that was great for everybody.
Totally. And here's one bit of caution, especially with millennials and with anybody in the 22 to 30 range, is that asking might not necessarily give you the answer that fits best, but it gives you more information. Right? So you might ask a millennial what they want, and they might say, I want more money and I want a promotion. Or what should we do? And they might say something that's not the right fit. One, you're going to get more information asking. Two, at 22 to 24 to 26, they're trying to discover what's important to them, why they're here, what work they're doing, what's best. So we also have to understand that. And so I want to, throw caution to, let's just follow what the millennials want to do and do all of that. That's not what I'm saying here. What I'm saying is you don't know and you can't learn, and you can't properly evaluate situations, your company, your team, positions, who to hire and what to do until you ask the right questions, until you ask what I call powerful questions.
That's great. So can you give us an example of what a powerful question would be?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing with powerful questions. is it's a practice, and there is no script for how to ask a powerful question. So I'm going to give you a couple of questions. In the context, they may be powerful, or depending on the situation that your listeners are delivering them, they may not be powerful. Powerful questions are in the moment. They're when you're really listening to somebody else. They're out of curiosity, coming from a beginner's mindset where you don't know. And the questions that I set people up initially when we're first starting to do this is have a stay interview with your employees, right? Not the exit interview where you say, hey, why are you leaving? What caused you to leave? No, have a stay interview with your employees and ask them these questions. Where do you want to grow? How do you want to develop? What skills are you looking to grow and develop? The third question I just asked, what skills are you looking to grow and develop, is more important because it's not what position do you want, what title do you want, what salary range, or what do you want to be doing? It's what skills do you want to develop, because that any manager can help their employee develop those skills. They can help put them on tasks or get them thinking about it, or really frame the way in which they're working after their goals towards developing certain skills. Now, they can't give them a promotion or new job title, but they can help them develop those skills. So if you ask, what skills are you looking to develop? And then truly listen, and truly, if you mean it from your gut, ask, how can I help support you in doing that? Instead of assuming you know how to support them, instead of you assuming you know what they want, ask. And so those two questions, what skills are you looking to develop and how can I help support you in achieving them, are two great starter questions in this process.
Yeah, boy, it sounds like it. That's really awesome. Wow. It just sort of changes the whole dynamic. I think so many business leaders are so focused on what can you do for the business that maybe they don't realize that if they can understand where their employees are coming from and what they need, they're either going to be able to provide it or not, but at least they know, at least they're engaging in that dialogue and having that conversation.
And what happens is you flip the script too. When you ask those questions, when you have stay interviews, what you're telling the employee is, I care about you.
Yeah.
What you're telling the employee is, I care about your growth and development, right? Back to what millennials want. I want purpose, I want connection, I want growth and development. Well, you're giving them two of the three right there just by asking a question. And you have to be there with the person. You have to listen. You can't just ask it and not pay attention. You have to really care and be curious about what the answer is, and then follow up and follow through with them on it. But when you do that, you flip the script, and your employee instantly becomes more motivated to you, because that one-on-one relationship between the manager and the boss is the most important part in the company. And it's where we fail the most.
Yeah.
And if I ask that question to my employee, do you know how much more leeway I get to make a mistake, to do something wrong?
Right.
Because they know I care about them. They know I'm there supporting them, and they know I'm a human too, and I make mistakes, and I probably wasn't coming from a place of trying to sabotage.
Right. Right. It stops being an us versus them sort of environment. So
it gives us latitude, yeah.
Yeah. And so do you think that this then decreases the amount of turnover that companies experience with millennials? Or can?
I'm gonna reverse this on you. Do you know any millennials that have been at a company or an organization for more than 3 or 4 years?
That's a good question. Well, I know one, but I don't think it really applies. So
okay.
I mean, so I would say my son. He's been at the same place since he was 14, but he comes and goes. You know, when he comes home from college, he comes and goes. It's sort of different. It's not like being
okay.
the career thing. So no.
So here's a interesting trick, interesting test to test out is start looking around for people like that. And listeners, start looking around for people like that. Here's what you'll find is few and far between when you find people that have been there 3, 4, 5 years. But what you'll notice is the people that have been have a boss, a mentor, somebody that directly holds and helps support them in their growth and development. And when that person leaves or when that relationship changes, it's more likely that there's going to be turnover unless there's somebody else to replace that person for them. So you ask, does having a manager who can coach, who can be a real true leader for their employees reduce turnover? Heck yes.
Yeah.
Bar none. I was one of my friends, actually not friends, people I met, and I asked him, he'd been at his company for 6 years. I said, what's happening, Dalton? And he said, there have been times where I thought about leaving or I wasn't sure about the direction of the business, but I really love my boss. And so I probably should have left, but I stayed because of him.
Wow.
You'll hear that. I probably should have left, but I stayed because of him or her.
Wow. Boy, it really does make a big difference. Wow.
Profound impact. It's the single biggest point of leverage in every organization. And it's a competitive advantage because most organizations aren't taking advantage of it.
Yeah. No.
One, they're not putting the right people in the right seats. And then two, when their people are in any sort of seats, they're not giving them the tools to be great leaders because those leaders can then have such a profound impact. They have a 100-person company. Instead of doing something like free lunches for all 100 people, take that same exact amount of money, invest it in those 20 people to really lead better.
Huh. Yeah. Okay. So, I'm not sure how I want to ask this question. If there's somebody listening and they're a small business owner and they want to be able to really delegate a lot more than they do, like if you ask them why they didn't, they would say, I don't think they're going to do it the way I do it. Like, how would you tell a listener, how would you help convince them? I hate the word convince, I'm going to say it anyway. But how can we help them be open to this idea of, because this feels like a trust thing to me, of trusting, yeah. Right? That if they go down this road, it's going to be good for them.
Yeah, it comes to a couple of, one essential question. Do you want to be an operator of your business, or do you want to be leading and growing your business? Because if you want to be an operator of your business, go ahead. Make sure your hand's in every pot and you're taking care of everything, and any small detail that has to get approved goes through you. That's fine. I'm biased against that. I think it's more stressful, more time consuming. I know plenty of leaders that I talk to and work with like that. And it's limiting to the growth that you can have as a business. Right? This podcast is about accelerating your business growth. That stifles your business growth because there is there's a bottleneck, and the bottleneck is you. If you want to grow your business, you can't be an expert and you can't know every single thing that's happening in the business. And so you have to let go.
Yeah.
Your business will never grow and succeed if you're to the levels beyond where you probably are today, if you're trying to hold the reins on everything. And so it's not really a choice. It's, are you going to let yourself lead? And letting yourself lead means letting others lead.
Huh. Yeah, that's good.
And some people choose to, I'm going to operate in my business. I'm going to be a solopreneur. I'm going to have a small team. And I love that. And there's plenty of people that have, that's for them. And there's other people that are trying to take their business from 13 people to 30 people and 30 people to 80 people and 80 people to 120 people. Well, at 120 people or at 30 people or at 80 people, you're not going to be able to do everything you're doing now at 5 people.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no way. Something's got to give. So, and also for those people who say, it's hard to find good people, and every time I find good people, they're only here for a little while and then they go. It sounds to me like what you're talking about is, okay, yeah, but there's potentially a reason internally why they're leaving, and from the research you've done, it's about what they're not getting in the organization. So it sounds to me like these people should really be taking a look inward as opposed to outward.
I've had people say to me before, why would I invest money in these people if they're just going to leave?
Yeah, that's a big question.
And I would say, well, why invest money in your business anyway? What's the point? Here's the paradigm shift that we've been talking about kind of this whole time, which is if you make your place of work a place where people leave better because of working with you, because of working in your organization, one, that creates a reputation that people want to come and work for you. 2, it makes people want to stay there longer because they know it's not better elsewhere. 3, when they think it's better elsewhere when they leave, there's a high likelihood they're going to come back, or they're going to be a customer, or they're going to be back with you at some way, shape, or form in your life and career.
Yeah.
And so it pays back to you in multiples when you do that. And on top of it, you're investing in the biggest asset of your business, which is your people. It's your biggest cost on the P&L. Like, it just is. So we need to invest in that to make sure it operates just as good as our IT does.
Yeah. This is great. I love this whole concept. I mean, really everything about it. And the interesting thing is that I'm not really even sure that it's only about millennials. I mean, I totally get that. I think that's what shines the light on it, because millennials leave. They're not afraid to leave where they're working if they're not happy, which didn't necessarily happen 20, 30 years ago. But I would imagine that this, as you said at the beginning of this actually, that everybody has the same needs and the same wants. It's just millennials have sort of taken a big spotlight and said, seriously, we mean it. This is really what we want.
And you're so right. And there's actually a really interesting, in my mind, a reason behind this, or one of the reasons, one of the factors contributing to it, which is we're no longer in the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
We're no longer in the working economy, although we act like it. So we have 9 to 5. That's a term. People still use it. I work for myself. I own my own business. I still think about ending my day around 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Like, where does that come from? That comes from the Industrial Revolution, and we're stuck in this way. And in the Industrial Revolution is you went to the factory, you went on the assembly line, and you stamped a box, and that was your job. So you didn't need to see the bigger picture. You didn't need to know what the box was for. You didn't need to know who it was going to. You just need to know stamp straight, stamp down, stamp hard.
Yeah.
Right? You're just making those stamps every day, hour after hour, 9 to 5. You clock in, you clock out. The world of work has changed. Probably 40 years ago, that type of work was out of the way. And for the last 40 years, we've been in this weird limbo period where you're expected to work from the office. Some people still punch in a like, it's so weird, but the world of work has changed. We're now in a knowledge economy. We're now in a place where if I have an employee, they need to know why they're doing that project and who it's going to work and how it's going to help them. They need to know the whole purpose behind it, because that's going to help them deliver the best solution. Because we're doing creative, thoughtful work that happens when I'm walking home from the gym at 6 in the morning, the sun's rising, and my brain's like, oh, that's it. That's the idea. That's work. Although today we don't consider that work.
Yeah.
Today we only consider work if I'm on a phone call, if I'm in a meeting, if it's on my calendar, or if I'm sitting at my desk typing something out. But it's just not the case. The creative work happens so differently.
Boy, it's so true. That's so weird. And I agree with you completely. I think it is absolutely that we have not gotten out of the industrial revolution, even though it is long gone. It is a totally different world. Yeah.
And unfortunately, we have a lot of institutional things that are placed around the Industrial Revolution too. I mean, school system. School system was developed in the Industrial Revolution to industrialize teaching. Clearly, it's not working anymore, and we're stuck in that way. And there's a bunch of examples we can see in our world today of how things are broken and need to change. And yes, millennials are coming up in this generation where it's starting to happen. So they're being blamed for it, even though it's something that we talked about being good. And there probably isn't blame that can be cited because this is just a changing world of work. So there's a lot of factors happening. But the ultimate thing is the world of work's different. We need to be thinking about it differently. We need to be approaching it and evaluating and assessing and pouring our assets and our resources into the right things.
Yeah. Boy, no kidding. This is really, I feel like a revolution is about to happen because hopefully it really is a big enough push for a change that we can change all of those things, because we really, in order to be successful moving forward in everything, in education and business and in life and feeling fulfilled and all of those things, we've got to look at things as they have changed. You know, we have to look at them differently. They are different. We've got to own it.
Yeah, it's so true. There's a fear I have. And the fear I have is the way the business world is going is we're going to have a lot more small and medium-sized businesses, less of the behemoths. The great thing about the behemoths was that they had these long career paths and they invested a lot in training, and they had whole 200, 300,000 person training departments. And you went through, you had all of that training to be a better leader, to be better at your role. Now with these small and medium-sized businesses, one, they're just getting by, and then two, they hit explosive growth. They have to hire so fast. They have to bring people on so fast. They never get the time to really think about investing in their people. And so my fear is we get into, I got to rush to do, because our company is growing so fast that what happens is they forget, or they don't take the pause to reflect and say, how do we continue and sustain this in a sustainable way by investing in our people? And when they don't invest in their people, what happens is their people start to leave. So I mean, if you look, you'll see companies that went from, here's a pretty good, the way I think about it, companies who go from 90 to 200 or 200 to 600 or 900, you'll often see there's a significant period of time where they either stay at that number or they drop. And then they start to have layoffs because they're not doing as well, because they're losing so much money from the turnover. Because they grew too fast and they didn't spend any time investing in their development. They spent time building beautiful offices, beer on tap, making flexible work hours, giving all these great benefits that don't actually drive the true change. They're all nice. And if you're a competitive company, you probably can't take those away because that's how you compete with the other companies. But that's not what's driving. I'll tell you, this is like the realization that I love is all these companies have free LaCroix and beer on tap. And I can tell you for certain, not one employee, not one millennial is waking up in the morning 3 months into their job and saying, I can't wait to go and give my best to my company today because I get free LaCroix. Because I get free beer on tap. It's just not the case. And when you ask any CEO or leader that question, they start, oh my God, you're right. So then why is that what we think of investing in our people?
Because it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, come on. That doesn't take a lot of work or effort or thinking or paradigm shifts, right? Just throw stuff at it. Wow.
Yeah, and we tend to believe that others are motivated by external drivers.
Right.
So people are motivated by money. People are motivated by free things. Mm-hmm. And to an extent we are. But the most sustainable motivation comes from an internal desire. It comes from your drive. It comes from what you care about. It's why when you ask me, what should we do with that high-performing sales leader, ask them.
Yeah.
Because that will give you an insight. If they scoff at the idea of managing and they have no desire, don't put them in a position.
Exactly.
If they think that's how I want to grow and develop myself, I'm not good at it, but I want to be, they want to be good at it, they're going to get good at it because they probably weren't good at sales at some point and they got good at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. This is so great, and it's so very, very important. And so tell my listeners how they can find you, how you work with companies to help them overcome this kind of thing.
So I'll answer each intercession. They can find me. If they want to reach out to me directly and ask any questions about today's conversation, they can reach me directly at Aaron, Aaron, at raisebar.co. And they can also go to our website, www.raisebar.co. The way in which we approach the situation is we go back to something that we had at the start of the conversation, right? If employees and millennials want purpose, they want connection, they want growth, and their single biggest resource to getting there, to getting that in a company, because it's a perception. It's not something you can just hand over. Here's purpose, here's growth.
Yeah.
It's a perception that they receive, and the biggest point of influence in that is their manager. Is what we do is we focus on only four key habits. And those habits are derived from essential traits that a great leader has. Great leaders are powerful motivators. They're master evaluators. They're really great at being direct in their communication. And they're also understanding that leading is about serving. It's about serving others to be at their best. And so those are four traits that you'll see in a great leader, but you won't see a great leader walk in at the start of the day and say, I'm going to motivate today. Here's motivation. I'm going to give it to you. Because you don't just go motivate. That's not how it works. There are practices and what I call habits, they're habits that we do on a daily basis, which help us motivate others. And so each of those traits has a habit. And the work that we do is we help people move from knowledge to action with these habits, help make them a part of their everyday life so they're not thinking about it and they're just doing it. We don't give them a playbook for how to manage. We give them a playbook for what are the steps I need to take to be better at listening. So the first habit is to listen with intention, attention. What do I need to do to ask powerful questions? How do I adopt the habit of asking powerful questions? How do I get better in my direct communication? And then the last one, which is often the hardest for any leader, for most leaders, is how do I hold critical conversations? And I say this, we do a 12-week long training where we do one training session on listening, then you have a homework assignment, which is actually to hold stay interviews. That's the first homework assignment. And then you have a coaching session, which is how did it go, what worked, what didn't. And that's how we make sure people are adopting the habit because we're practicing it enough times. And then we go to the next workshop and the next homework assignment. And I say at the first workshop, I say one of the hardest things that you're all gonna have to realize by the end of this training is that feedback is a gift.
Yeah.
It's a gift to somebody else. And you're actually serving somebody when you give them a gift, and you're robbing them when you don't give them that feedback. Even if that feedback is, you're not a right fit here. We need to let you go.
Yeah, boy. Absolutely. Thank you so much for saying that. That is really, I mean, people are better off finding where they can thrive than being someplace just for the money.
I don't know if you went through this in your coaching. One of our core tenets of coaching was that humans and people are creative, resourceful, and whole. And when we don't believe that they're creative, resourceful, and whole, when we believe that they're broken, that they're going to be broken if we fire them, then we hold them to this lower standard of possibility. By not giving them feedback, by not firing them when they need to be fired or telling them that didn't work when it didn't work, what we're doing is we're holding them to a lower standard of possibility. And I find that awful.
I do too.
And it's hard as it is to tell somebody a truth that will feel uncomfortable for me and maybe make them feel uncomfortable, and they might not like me because of it. You know what? It's going to help them in the future at some point in their life or their career.
Exactly.
And they may never tell me, but it's a gift to them.
Yeah.
And so, as you said, if somebody's not a right fit in an organization, they probably know it. They probably don't feel good about it. They're probably worried every day going into work, am I going to get fired? or am I doing this wrong? Because they're not a fit. So let them know and let them get closer to finding what works so that they can be at their best, so that they can be fulfilled.
Absolutely. That is right on. Thanks for sharing that. I'm with you completely on that one. On the whole thing. I mean, this is really interesting for me. It's and it's so funny because, you know, I said at the beginning of this that there are so many people in my generation who have this attitude about millennials, but we created them, and we shouldn't have that attitude because, frankly, it's a better way of being, and it all, as you said, stems from the same place. We all have the same sorts of wants and desires and needs as humans. So I see this as really, if business owners and leaders just embrace this idea of just being better leaders, then it's not going to matter who they're dealing with, because they're going to be behaving in a way that's just going to be good for everybody in any situation.
It couldn't be more right. And you know what I tell the people? I say, even if you're not of this, right, we're both of the same mindset where why not, like, listen to them, even if you're not of that mindset and you're like, screw this, the truth is you're not going to have a choice in the matter in the next 5 to 10 years. Millennials are going to make up 75% of the work population, and their turnover costs you, depending on the salary of the employee, $10,000 to $100,000 to replace. You can't afford to not. Yep. Like, if you're trying to be a business that's in business with multiple people that's outside of just you, you need to figure out how to engage and work with millennial talent. And the best, simplest, most affordable way is to really be able to listen, to ask powerful questions, to be direct in your communication with them, even if it's something that they might not want to hear, and to hold critical conversations when they need to happen.
Yep, absolutely. Wow, this was so great. I really appreciate you spending time with us and sharing this. And listeners, go over to raisebar.co and connect with Aaron and learn about how you can be connecting better and listening and doing better things in your business. So Aaron, thank you. I really appreciate it. It was a great, I learned a lot. So I always like learning because then I know my listeners are as well. So thanks. And I want to thank the listeners and our sponsor. Visit audibletrial.com/businessgrowth and sign up for a free trial. You will also get a free audiobook. Continue to prosper and be curious. And until we meet again on another episode of Accelerate Your Business Growth, goodbye and good day.
The world's best-known investor and Wall Street expert Warren Buffett once said, "Wall Street is the only place that people ride to in a Rolls-Royce to get advice from those who take the subway." Mr. Buffett's quote is remarkably accurate, but how many people would rather receive advice from him than someone simply guessing? Welcome to Buy, Hold, Sell, your single source for Wall Street knowledge and profitable guidance. Please join me, Todd Schoenberger, and fellow trader Tobin Smith, as well as host Veronica Dudo, for a podcast known to move the needle for investors. Tobin and I are seasoned Wall Street executives with deep investment experience, and we are prepared to share our advice to those who choose to listen. Download Buy, Hold, Sell today on the Evergreen Podcast Network or your favorite podcast channel.